I don't depend on a man to tell me how to be a woman or rely on his masculinity or how he shows up to define my femininity or my womanhood ever. It helps me to ground myself in understanding what I need as a woman and what I require from other people in my life as a woman.
Everybody, welcome to Love Unbxd. I'm really excited to be having this conversation today with none other than Hope Giselle. Welcome, Hope.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here for real.
I'm happy to have you here. I think this is really going to be an exciting conversation to be able to sit with you. I know that we've had a conversation about like what this episode would entail. And so, I wanted to really capture you like as like Hope the woman, outside of just the activism that you do and the work that you do to support like trans people around the world. But I want to dive more into, how you navigate yourself, right? How you unboxed love, but also how, your partner does that with you as well. And so we really have some exciting conversation or some exciting questions to dive into. But I am excited to have you here.
Look, let's do it. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to see how nosy y'all gonna get.
Yes. Let me tell you, the people will be in your business, okay?
All up in it.
Yes. So I want to first start with like your origin story, like who you were before, Hope Giselle, like now, like how did this version of you, how did this person come to be from where you've been in your past?
To be perfectly honest, I think that, and I try not to say this because sometimes it can be problematic, but the attitude for real didn't really change. It was just the way that I presented in life that kind of changed. I've always been outspoken. I've always been the person that was going to say the thing that other people didn't want to either say, or I've always been the person to stand up for people who were too shy or too afraid to stand up for themselves. Hope is just a manifestation of my inner feelings about myself, not an actual manifestation of a person that I needed to become in order to be who I already was.
I love that. Was there a moment where that was like an aha moment for you, right? Like I don't have to be something in order to become it. I am already it, right? Was there a person that like instilled that in you? Was there a moment that just happened in life where you just like, it just clicked for you?
It was the moment I figured out who Janet Mock was. And I tell this story all the time, but my aha/transition moment happened in one day. It wasn't a thing that I was thinking about for months or something that had weighed heavy on me. I was in college, and to make a couple of extra dollars, I was doing drag. Now, mind you, y'all, don't go looking for no videos. It was the worst drag you're ever going to find in life. I was just a good dancer. And this club was a club where all of these students in the area would come. And so because my friends knew me, they would tip really well, and I would make $300-$400 a weekend sometimes. And on a slow weekend, at the very least, I would have like $150 to, make it through the week as a college student. And that was a lot, especially in Montgomery, Alabama. Things aren't really expensive like that. And I remember coming home one night. I must have been too tired to take my makeup off or like remove my wig properly. And I woke up the next morning, and the way that I positioned it, because I'm a vain Leo who's a narcissist, I like flipped up. And when I would flip up in the morning, the first thing I would see is myself because there was a mirror. And this particular morning, it was a Sunday, and I flip up and I was just disgusted with what I saw. A lot of it was just because it was disheveled. A lot of it was because, overnight, obviously I had slept on this makeup. It was smudged. It was all of these things. And I remember feeling really bad. And at the time I had natural hair. Well, I mean, I still have, but it was loose natural hair. Let me say that. And so I was like, you know what? We're going to do a hair care day. We're going to wash. We're going to primp. We're going to do all the things. Let's figure out a new hairstyle that'll make me feel better. And in the midst of my search for a hairstyle, I stumbled upon Janet Mock. Now, what Janet
Mm.
Mock had to do with natural hair styles, I have
Mhm.
no idea. But,
I was
I like
wondering.
to say, look, I like to say that Universe Ancestor Spirit put Janet on that search feed for me.
Mhm.
And I watched about 4 videos before she ever said the word transgender.
Yeah.
And it clicked. And I think I went down a rabbit hole. I watched several more videos. I emailed her on her website, and I immediately started to pack up all of my boy stuff and clothes. I gave it to the guys in the dorm, and Hope was born, literally, in a matter of
Yeah.
hours. It was that easy for me to understand what I needed to do for myself in order to feel better. That's not everybody's story, but that was definitely mine.
Yeah, and I bet like it felt good to just breathe in that moment too, because I'm
Oh,
sure that
yeah.
you had already had all these thoughts, these things that were coming up for you, especially at a
Mhm.
time that was like transformative and pivotal in our transition from teenage to adulthood, right? And so I'm
Absolutely.
sure there were some pieces where like you felt in that moment that like I don't have to protect this anymore, right? And so what did that feel like?
You know, a lot of it was just me feeling in control of my body for the first time in a really long time. I know that people will tell you, like, oh, you have bodily autonomy. But at
Hmm.
what point do you realize that for yourself? I think that we all, as kids and as adolescents, we will say, I can't wait till I get grown because I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and I have all of these plans for my
I know
life.
I said it.
But look here. And then you become an adult and you are still living your life like your parents are the people that are in control of your destiny.
Hmm.
And I think that bodily autonomy truly came for me. And I think it comes for a lot of us when we recognize that we are out in this world taking care of ourselves. And the last time we called our parents, caretakers, guardians, grandma, and them for assistance was a really long time ago, right?
Hmm.
And that is when you start to realize, like, oh, bitch, like, I got this. Like, I'm okay.
I'm good.
Okay. Somehow I'm doing it. Like,
I
like,
figured it
somehow
out.
I'm doing it. And I think that for me, that's what it felt like. It was my aha moment of somehow I am making it. I am not
Yeah.
homeless. I am not hungry. I am
Hmm.
not wanting for anything. And my basic needs and a little bit more are being met. And
Hmm.
that was when things for me started to really open up and clear up.
So I really appreciate what you just shared there, Hope. And I feel like we now have a sense of like how you have been able to ground yourself in who you are right now, and what that journey kind of looked like. Now I want to dive a little bit more into like your journey around um, visibility, and truth. I want to ask a question around, you know, you have said before that people love your strength and love your vulnerability. And they also just rarely check in on the woman behind that, right? Of who you are and how you show up in the world like for yourself. Right. And so I'm curious about like what's the emotional cost of like constantly having to be the one who explains, um who teaches, who, stands really tall, but doesn't always get the opportunity for someone to kind of look behind all of that.
It's frustrating because I feel like my biggest issue is that I don't get to have fun when I do
Mm.
want to have fun.
What does fun
I
look like for you? Pause there.
sometimes
Like,
sometimes I just want to get on and I'm friends with Dominique Morgan.
hmm
Sometimes I want to get on and do what Dominique does and talk about the hot gossip and give my little 1-2 about who having sex with who and who slapped who in
yes,
the mouth yesterday, right?
I be tuned into
And
every Dominique Morgan
because
TikTok.
they're hilarious and she's funny
Yes.
and there's levity and there's all of these things.
hmm
And I think that she's created a lane that's all her own. And so what I love is that she's still being called for the both and I think that it's because she
Yeah.
does them more often intertwined with one another. A lot of my content is going to be education based because I know how important it is for people to understand these things. And
Yeah.
also that is my bread and butter. That's where I get my happiness and my joy from, is making sure that there's a lot of things that feel inaccessible that become accessible to people. Howsoever, I'm just a girl. Like, I like
Mhm.
sometimes I do want to come on and do my makeup and talk about Cardi B and her new boyfriend. Sometimes I don't want to be in the middle of talking about my weekend on live and somebody's just like, "Well, did you hear so and so died? What you gonna do about that?" And I also I think that the cost of visibility is that sometimes there are onslaughts of murders and court cases and killings and things of that nature, and I'm getting an inbox and a text message and an email full of people
Yeah.
being like, "Ooh, hope, 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 hope." And it's just death and chaos. And I'm just like, wait a minute. Like, I was having a good day until I opened my phone. And now I feel like
Yeah.
I can touch it, you know? But the adverse of that is that, especially in this particular administration, that's my bread and butter. You know, I don't make a lot of money from social media. Howsoever, my consulting is largely based off of people finding me from social media because
Yeah.
I don't have, you know, the white CEO that's backing me and going into these rooms. When I go to these conferences and things, I have to pay out of pocket. And so, since I'm not going to always be willing to pay $1,200 for the conference fee and then another seven, $800 for the flight and then another $300 or $500 for the
Come
room,
on.
social media is the way that like I end up being booked and the way that people find me. And a lot of those people that want to book me don't care about the Cardi B situation. And when they hop on my page, if that's the first video or the last video that I posted, sometimes I miss out on money because people are
Mhm.
like, "Oh, you don't get to be nuanced. When I get on your page, it needs to be business as usual. I'm not going to scroll past the first video that I see. So if that video doesn't capture me and it doesn't sell you as this activist advocate person, I'm moving on."
Yeah.
And I think that for me, that's what visibility has done, is pigeonholed me in a way that when I do have moments of weakness where I say, screw it, I'm just going to have some fun. Those are times when everybody, for whatever reason, it's like they all get together, like, we want to book Hope, but not if she posting that, you know?
Yeah.
And if I stick to strictly just educational things, then when I want to post a picture of me slaying or when I want to post a picture of a night out with my husband, it's just kind of like those things fall silent, and then that hurts the algorithm, which hurts my ability to be seen, which hurts the so there's a bunch of different like things that have been affecting my ability to, one, promote and market myself, but two, to just have a regular life sometimes that doesn't involve me always talking about the best three steps to avoid being harassed in a bathroom.
Yeah.
My life is more than that.
Your life is more than that. And one of the things I know that you've talked about too before is about like how people sometimes forget to see that you are human, right?
Yeah.
And I think that what you just explained is oftentimes what happens behind the scenes, that people who are in front of the scenes that do view your videos, that do follow your content, don't always get to see. And they always really don't get to know, what that looks like, because you are out here advocating for them, those individuals that are on the other side of the camera. And sometimes you have to also advocate for yourself, or I won't even say sometimes I'll say all the time. You got to
Yeah, right.
advocate for yourself, right? And so I'm curious about, how do you do that? How do you navigate, advocating for yourself when, there is a person that's interested in booking you, but they do come on your page and they see this video and, maybe they start pulling back from, wanting to engage with you for a conference, for a speaking opportunity, for whatever it may be. And so, how do you advocate for yourself in those moments?
Every 3 to 6 months or so, I'm going to post a video that I think will convict those people who still follow me. They don't
Mm-hmm.
unfollow, they just decide to go in a different direction, as the people say,
Mm,
right? You know, and so because I know that they did not unfollow, I will post the indirect but very direct comments about the idea that people deserve to be able to live full lives.
mm-hmm.
I don't see anybody being fired from MIT or Harvard or these high level nonprofit organizations because they went on a yacht weekend with their wife and kids. I should not be vilified and unable to come and speak because I went to Everyday People last weekend. These are things that we do in our spare time. And as long as I'm not posting me taking a bump or something like that, I don't understand why the idea of a grown woman going to an event that I paid for and having a good time, my boobs aren't out, like I'm not,
Mhm.
half naked or anything like that. I'm just having a good time at a space that's curated for adults who want to have a good time. And for a lot of those people, when they see those videos, they're reminded of the humanity of what it means. And so those indirect but direct posts sometimes do end up getting me the booking, because people
Mm.
rethink that judgment that they had, because they remind themselves, I was actually just at the Lady Gaga concert acting all the way up. And if there was a video of that of me that wasn't even for content, people might
Uh-huh.
not look at me either. And so maybe we should give this girl a chance. And typically what ends up happening is that when people do bring me in, they get what they paid for, and I think that that's the saving grace, is that I've never let anybody down who has paid the fee.
Yeah.
However, sometimes having to
Give me your
prove,
size when you got the coin.
but when you have to prove that you are professional all the time in a way that other people who are doing this work don't have to prove that they're professional, and
Yeah.
then still get a quarter of the way as far, it's annoying. I've gone to school. I've had degrees and certificates and all of these things to prove that I'm a subject matter expert in this. I've literally consulted with NASA, for God's sakes. And if I were a
Mhm.
white trans woman, I would have had a TED talk by now. I would have been on the cover of Them and Out magazine. I would be being flown all around the world to do all of these amazing, great discussions. And then because of my
Name it.
aesthetic, I would have beauty campaigns reaching out to me to do education around silica and makeup and the way that thing like humectants bring water into the skin. I would have so many brand deals. I wouldn't know what to do with them if I were a white
Yeah.
girl with the same aesthetic doing the same thing. But because
Yeah.
I'm a Black trans woman, there's not a lot of room to be able to have conversation about what it means to be a nuanced individual. Meanwhile, you got
Mhm.
Dylan Mulvaney out here still representing for girlhood as a grown ass woman, you know, and flexing this facial femme. And I just, those are things that I don't understand. When people say that they want folks that are doing the work, I don't understand how that is work. I can understand how
Yeah.
it's a possibility model, but not work.
Yeah. And I completely agree with you on every sense of that. And it sounds like you really, navigate advocating for yourself by doing it in like a really like, I don't want to say subtle way, but like a strategic way in which like, yeah, you think you're not going to see this content, but you're going to see this content and you're going to engage with this content. And then you go find an opportunity to invite me in
Mhm.
to continue to build on that content that I just shared, right? And so I like how you said like every 3 months, like this is something that I do because I know that these people are watching. Because let me
Yeah.
tell you, your biggest haters are still going to watch your content. They're going to be engaged with you. They might not engage with your content. Let me say that, but they're going to watch your content, right? And
Mhm.
so I love how you just shared like, you know what, every 3 months, like I'm just going to like post something, right?
Mhm. Just a little
And I'm
reminder.
gonna see where it goes. You said what?
Just, just a little reminder that we're all human beings, right?
Yes.
Nuanced human beings at that.
N-
So yeah,
nuance.
I find that keeps things going. It keeps things moving for me.
Yeah. How do you navigate also like loving on yourself like through those moments, right? Because it can be a challenge like seeing those things. Like we are strong individuals, but we can also, we feel just as any other human feels, right? And so how do you, you know, uh, take back that power or I'll say keep that power for
Mhm.
yourself and love on yourself like during those moments where it's like, fuck y'all, to be honest.
I have an amazing tribe of people in my life. I have folks that sometimes they can see it coming before I even say that it's happening.
Mhm.
And so before I can even get into the funk, they're already like, bitch, nope. No, like we not about to do that. And so I will say that a lot of me not crashing out on y'all, because people think that I crash out. I don't crash out the way that I could crash out. There's a group of people that
Mhm.
can crash out. Y'all don't get all the crash outs, right? But that's my safe place. That's where I go. That's where the bones are buried. That's where all of the things, take place in a real way. And so I
Yeah.
think because I have that community, that circle, those people that I can truly trust. I can say I really trust these people in my life. It gives me an outlet, and it also creates a space where there are people who are holding themselves to task to hold me accountable to not forget
Yeah.
who the fuck I am.
Yes. Mm. Come on now, forget who the fuck I am, because you won't forget me. Okay? Let's be
Ever.
clear. Okay. So speaking of your village, right? Speaking of your tribe, Xander is a part of that. And as a Black trans woman, you have oftentimes challenged the understanding of what it looks like or around the notion of desirability, right? And so I'm curious about like how did you, get to this point where you were like, I am deserving of being loved by someone, right? I am deserving of having the experience that our heterosexual counterparts get to exist in and be a part of every single day without question.
That man saw something that he wanted and he refused to
Mm-hmm.
leave me alone. That's really,
Mm-hmm.
and I say that with pride because Zam would not leave me alone. um, we dated twice. This is our third time trying a relationship. And I tell people this all the time. It's not
Mm.
because he was some fuck boy. It wasn't because it was actually the exact opposite. He has always been a very driven person. And when he sets his mind to something, he applies himself 110%. That's how I know when he not really applied to something because he ain't really,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but when he means a thing, that man is going to he ingrains and learns every little detail about the thing. And
Mm-hmm.
so when we got together the first time, he was studying to be an EMS, right? So we're doing the things, and I want to say maybe a month in, he realizes that he really likes me. He's like, look, school is kicking my ass. I have to do this, and I'm also doing these practicals. I do not have enough time to keep driving back and forth from Baltimore to DC
Mm-hmm.
to give you the time that you really deserve. I'm gonna spin the block when I'm done. And
Okay.
hopefully, if you are open, we can try this again. And I respected that because don't waste my motherfucking time.
Okay.
If you know you ain't got it, then let me know what's up and let me decide if I wanna, allow you the space to come back in when you have the time. And sure enough, I wanna say maybe a year and a half, 2 years later, he comes back and we're at it again. And then he's like, so I decided that I wanna go into firefighting. And
Mm.
firefighting was even more rigorous than EMS school. So it was just kind of I'm throwing ladders. I'm up till 4 a.m. It's crazy. I got to do this again. And I'm so sorry. But please understand that I'm not asking you to wait for me. But if when
Uh-huh.
I'm done, if you got
Yeah.
space. And it was funny because when he came back around that time, I was in a relationship with somebody that ended
Mm.
shortly thereafter. And he wasn't biting. Well, he was biting his time, but he wasn't biting his time in a way that felt weird or, the guy looming over waiting for you to have a vulnerable moment. He was genuinely
Yes.
a friend. And ultimately, that man, when he realized I was coming back to DC, that man gave me the sexiest ultimatum I think I had ever been given, which was,
Mm-hmm.
you're coming back to DC. I'm moving to DC. And so here's what I'm thinking. We move in together. And if after a year you don't like me like that, we ain't got to re-sign the lease. You can go your way, I'll go my way, and we'll be good. We can say that we tried. And I was like,
Okay.
I get a fire ass apartment and not really have to pay all the bills in DC with a nigga that I can trust halfway decently. All right. And it's no strings really attached, so I can still date
Okay.
niggas. All right, let's do it.
That's a good
Let's
gig. Mm.
but obviously I did not continue to still date niggas.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So he's really just been consistent, and he has been exactly who he said he was going to be, which makes him easier to love. But
Yeah.
he was willing to do the work, and that's what I tell people all the time. I'm not easy. I don't claim to be easy. I think that people who don't even know me can probably guess that if I'm this hard in life, y'all know in relationship I'm probably 10 times, and you would be right.
Mhm.
But he did the work, and so he gets a different side of me than y'all do.
Yes, I love that. You give so much of yourself to the world, girl. Let me be clear. You give so much of yourself to the world, and you are so deserving to have someone who just loves on you, who appreciate you, who desires you, who, considers you, right? Like who wants to ensure that they are an intricate part of your life, of your being, of your walk in your journey, right? And so I think that's extremely beautiful. And actually, I got a couple more questions around Xander and your relationship. So I'm gonna skip on down to that part, girl, and we're gonna get there. So I'll ask, like, how has being loved with Xander allowed you to really experience like the parts of womanhood that the world like often overlooks or refuses to see for you?
Well, I will say this is a twofold question because I want to be slick's mouth and say the thing that's gonna get the clip, but then
And do
also
the twofold.
there's a twofold. So I think that the twofold thing, the slick mouth clip thing is I don't depend on a man to tell me how to be a woman or rely on his masculinity or how he shows up to define my femininity or my womanhood ever. I will say, in the adverse of that, as a wife who is being loved in a way that I feel sometimes supersedes my expectations about what I deserve, is that he has not helped my womanhood flourish in any sort of way. He's helped me to ground myself in understanding what
Mm-hmm.
I need as a woman and what I require from other people in my life as a woman. And so it's one of those things where when I'm thinking about how I want to be treated at the job, how I want to be treated when I'm out and about, whether I'm with or without him, how you're going to treat me as a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Should I ever have to get a divorce from this man, how the next man is going to have to treat me.
Yeah.
All of those things are things that he has taught me about how I want to be respected as a woman. I will
Mm.
say that before I was with Xander, my ex-boyfriend Marcus, we were being intimate, and this was the first time that I had ever had a man ask me in the middle of a sexual act, what do you like? How would you like me to treat your body? What is some? And I did not know the answer to that.
Mm.
Meeting Zan gave me the answer to that and so much more about the way that I am going to be accepting life as a woman. But it did not, I don't think that it helps to affirm my womanhood. I am that I am, whether he's here or not. But what I've learned that I'm going to tolerate versus what I'm not going to tolerate, what I'm going to accept, what I like and what I don't like, he sharpened that list real crisp for me.
Yes. I absolutely love that. And there's a part that I want to hone in on is the intimacy piece, because I feel like intimacy is really missing from like dating and relationships right now. I feel as though like people believe that like sex is the only like road to intimacy, right? That is the only way in which we can be intimate with one another. But intimacy exists in so many other ways. I mean, it's how someone may, say something to you when they walk through the door, how they greet you specifically. It is, someone thinking about you, like they're on their way, they're going to the grocery store and they're calling you to ask you, like, what do you need? Like, I'm on my way, X, Y, and Z. It is like you are getting yourself something to eat and you go to get and you call me to see what I want, or you already know what
No,
I
what I
want.
want.
Let me
Come
be clear. You
on.
already
Come
know what I
on
want and you
now.
just get it.
Yes.
Do you
Yes.
understand? Like there's so many ways in which like we can exist. And so I'm interested to know, like, what does that look like for you and Xander? Like, how did you, I don't want to
Ooh.
say like how did you, figure out what intimacy looked like for you all, but like what was the what are the things that are really like important for you to navigate in like an intimate relationship with Xander?
You know the thing that's interesting, just being 110% transparent, is that we are very different. Zan wanna fuck. Zan will
Yeah.
make love.
Yeah.
Zan wants to be inside me all the time. If that man could put his penis in me and walk around attached, like he would, like
Yeah.
he never wants to leave. And
Mhm.
I feel like for me, I am the intimacy person. Zan's intimacy comes every day, and so I think as it
Mhm.
comes to like physical intimacy, his does revolve and rely heavily on sex because he is so intentional with everything else. Like we
Yeah.
have flower Fridays in here. I have 3 bouquets of flowers downstairs for my husband. Like
Wow.
there are things that he does on a daily. So when I think about intimacy in the way that a lot of men typically miss, Zan don't miss that mark. So
Yeah.
when it's time to be intimate in other ways, he's like, I want my dick sucked. like you know, there's no coaxing with that.
Mhm.
However, I am not always the most sexually inclined person. I'm a sensualist. I'm a massage you, rub you down, read you a book, poetry. You know, my nudes are like Picasso's. It's ridiculous. I'm gonna do a whole production so that you have,
Mhm.
you know, like I feel like these men are so overstimulated with all the Insta baddies that are paying for, you know, 5K photo shoots to, you know, send you to their OnlyFans. And
Yeah.
so what's
Girl,
the thing?
yes.
How is your intimacy different from intimacy that they get in, technically intimacy that they're getting online from these parasocial relationships? And so a lot of it is me doing those things, but also just understanding when that baby need a head rub when he come home from work, knowing when he need a lamb chop dinner because that's his favorite thing, understanding that today is going to be a day where I'm going to have to pull back and
Mhm.
really listen when he gets home because the text messages about work today have been real heavy, and so I know he needs an ear. Being able to go to our favorite little lookout spot and enjoy a sundown or a sunset dance party. We will take
Mhm.
our scooter out there and we sit on the edge of that little lift, that little cliff, and we turn on Afro beats and we are out there looking silly to the people riding by this overlook. But it's just us. That's our intimacy time. And we don't care how we look to the people who don't understand it. This is what we do. We have our dance parties together while the sun is setting over, you know, the valley. We do,
Yeah.
you know, long drives and have the tough talks while eating in and out. And you know, there are just so many different ways that I think we hold our intimacy together that are not physical. That when we come to the physical, there's all of these things that we, you know, we bounce back and forth. He wants a hypersexual intimate experience. I want something that's more touchy feely. And
Yeah.
because sex always involves foreplay around here, we both get what we
Mhm.
need. And like and we're good. So I think that it's intimacy both physically and uh out of the physical aspect are always really great because we talk through things, especially if
Yeah.
they've changed, where we're really good about saying like, oh, I don't really like that no more. Let's do something else.
Yeah, I think that's so good. I think that's so beautiful, girl. I relate mostly with you. I am not a hypersexual individual. Like intimacy for me, it will come in other forms, right?
Yeah.
And how I show it, right? But I will also like in my partnership, I will navigate that how you also want to navigate that, right? Because
Yeah.
there's two of us here, and if I want to be here, I got to navigate that with you, right? And so um I think it's like really important to be able to, like you said, like y'all have those conversations. And you know, even in, you know, the sexual experience or the sex act that y'all were in, you know, and understanding like what that looked like, even though like someone else asked you that question, right?
Yeah.
It was realized when you were with Xander, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure that there were moments or things that led up to that for you with Xander specifically, for you to be able to like understand like, oh, this is what that person meant.
Yes.
And yeah, okay,
Yes.
this is what I wanted, right?
Yeah.
This is how I
Absolutely.
wanted to exist.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember uh like walking Zan through our our first sexual experience, which was not good.
Yeah.
And I remember walking him through it, but I think the thing that made it sexy, even though it wasn't good, was that he didn't flinch. He wasn't offended.
Yeah.
He was just like, okay, so how do I be better? What do you want me to do? I need to move over here? Do I need to turn? Okay, so which side? Okay, you on top?
We
Okay,
love a
great.
listener.
Like,
We, we love somebody who ask questions.
look, when I say again, I think the other thing about loving him is that there's never been a moment where I believe that Zan didn't want to be here. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that that's a thing for me that is always beautiful, is knowing that your partner doesn't really care to be anywhere else but where they are. And I think so many of us have probably been in relationships where we are exactly where we want to be. This person is, in our minds, like the perfect person. We're trying to do everything, say everything, be
Yeah.
everything, even, adapt to some things that we're not in order to be with this person. And that person seems a little hot and cold or lackadaisical about the way that they want to show up in return. And that's just not what I have in this relationship. And it feels really good to be assured that I don't really have a lot to worry about. Now, it's not to say that Xan is the perfect person in the world and that he's never going to make
Yeah.
mistakes, but it is to say that I worry less about the possibility of getting like a weird phone call or like a walk in the door and your head's hanging low because you got to admit something. Like
Mm-hmm.
I rarely, if ever, think about the possibility of that happening over here.
Yeah. That's a beautiful thing too. That's safety, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I talked about this on Instagram earlier today in a story post about like, I just don't know. It was a dating post that happened and I was responding to the dating post and I was basically sharing like, a lot of us are still navigating trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because like when we are vulnerable in relationships or while we're dating, that vulnerability has often been chastised, right? That
Mm-hmm.
vulnerability has often been made to be a pity or seen as a pity, right? And so we shut ourselves off and we are no longer feeling safe in that experience. But now when we go on to that next experience, we're even more guarded and even more protected because that trauma taught us to be, right, protective of like our vulnerability and who we are. And so it really takes a person, right, to sit and create a space that is safe for us to exist in, to be in our full and authentic selves in order for that to like grow and blossom into a relationship. Because if you're not being yourself, if you're not being authentic to who you are, you cannot like, I don't care what nobody say, you're not going, that the relationship is not going to last.
That
It's
part.
going to be nice and cute for now, but it's not going to last. You're going to get tired, or that person is going to see you out as, a fake,
Mm-hmm.
and you navigating that relationship. But it's really important for someone to create a safety, right, for you to exist and be in a relationship. And so it sounds like Xander has been able to do that for you. And I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I also believe that there's an evolution, right, that's happened that you have shared with us around like just your origin story to how you show up with Xander now in your relationship. And I'm wondering, what are those things that you are reaching back to reclaim that like the world tried to take from you as you were continuing to evolve as Hope Giselle?
A lot of people told me that I had to do one thing, that I needed to like pick a lane and sort of stick in it. And this is going to be a controversial thing just because of
Mm-hmm.
the tension that's going on between me and this lady right now. But it is not meant to get her going. So if she does, I apologize. Podcast.
It is
But
what it is.
it is what it is, and y'all know me. I don't run from the thing. I'm gonna say the thing. But
Okay.
I remember when I was Angelica Ross's personal assistant.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that she said to me when she was letting me go was that maybe I was trying to do too much at one time. I was trying to be an activist and I was also trying
Mm.
to influence and I was also, trying to be at every protest and I was doing all of the things. And she was just like, like, Hope, you got too much going on. You got to pick a thing. You got to do a da 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 da, while actively not doing that herself. Like we all watched as Angelica was like navigating tech and being on Broadway and doing advocacy and also doing
Mm-hmm.
fashion for a hot second. And so I was like, why
Mm-hmm.
would you give me advice that you're not even following? And I think that this relationship with Zan is a place that I go to kind of sort of bounce those things off because Angelica wasn't the only person that made me feel that way. She was just the only person that said it. She had the balls to say it to my face. Like, I think
Mm-hmm.
that you're doing a lot. And it can be muddy and I don't get it and it doesn't make sense. And I wouldn't know how to market you. Right. And I think one of the things that I've taken back in relationship and as a result of being with Zan is that I can be every fucking thing that I set my mind to be. And
Oh, good.
while I'm not going to always master everything, that's not my goal. My goal is not to master being the best, fashion influencer. My goal is not to master or become the end all be all voice for every trans person in America. I'm not trying to master being the only Black woman that you listen to around Black issues. Obviously, I could
Mm-hmm.
not for very clear reasons, right? There's a nuance and there's a reason why there are so many different voices on different, spectrums of each diaspora or different human plane. But I think when it comes down to it, Zam reminded me that I have the space to explore
Yeah.
whatever it is that my heart desires. And if it flops, it flops. If it does great, oh my God, cool. Let's figure out if we want to continue to do it, even though it's doing great. Because it's doing great doesn't mean that it's for you either, right?
Yeah.
And I think that being in this relationship has really taught me to take my power back from all of the people who have once told me, like, I don't know, like, I don't get you. Like, it's great, it's awesome. I know that you're touching people, but I don't really know what to make of this. Like, what do you do? The amount of
Yeah.
people over my entire career who are like, what does Hope do? It just doesn't make sense to me. If
Yeah.
nothing else, at the very least, to answer all of you all's questions, I'm an educator. Everybody who is asking me, what does Hope do, has learned something from me. And
Mm-hmm.
those are the things that I feel like make people saying that to me feel even more obtuse, because I feel like I'm trying to be humbled by folks who have been my students for the
Mm-hmm.
sake of trying to keep me from ascending to a certain level in my own journey. And so it's just like, we want to keep learning from you. So we're going to pretend like we're not learning anything from you in order to make you go harder so that we can use the things that we learn from you and apply it to our lives.
Yeah.
And Zan has reminded me that everybody got to pay a toll. And I can't keep giving things out for free. And there's something about a person that loves you enough to remind you that you can't just accept the crumbs all the time for the sake of not rocking the boat. That is beautiful. And he's the
Yeah.
least confrontational person I know. But when it comes down to stepping it up and understanding my worth, he's never, Zan will sell himself short before he sells me short.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that man for that, because he truly cares about the journey that I said that I want to go on, and making sure that that becomes a possibility.
It's a high level of selflessness that it sounds like Xander has, most definitely,
Absolutely.
especially when it comes to hope.
Absolutely. That and compersion.
Yes.
That and compersion. He just wants me to feel and see and experience love for the things that I've said that I want to do. And
Mm-hmm.
even when, them bikini pictures, child, if y'all knew how many side eyes and I text message emojis I got for some of them bathing suit pictures y'all see. But I think that his compersion is just understanding that, like, I'm trying to be trans Beyonce, and
Okay.
and I think that he definitely understands that, and with the grimace on his face, he allows certain things to slide, even though he doesn't, enjoy it.
Yes, I absolutely love that. It really says something about like Xander as a person and who he is and how he's grounded himself in his being,
Yes.
and not allowing you, but giving you the space to just continue to be yourself, right? And so I'm also thinking about the continuation of hope, right? This we're getting ready to go into a new year, and so I'm interested in knowing, right? Like, what do you see for yourself in this next version of you, right? Who is she?
Wow. Okay. So I was having this conversation with Consciously last night, because we
Mm,
were both just discussing the way of the influencer and things that, So I love that you asked this question, but I think next year y'all can look forward to someone who is a lot more reassured than I think I've ever been, in
mm,
a time that's going to require us to be exactly that. I don't think that if you are a queer creator, especially if you are a Black queer creator next year, and you have been doing the damn thing, this year was the test run for what they are planning on doing, which is booting.
mm-hmm,
And next year is going to be a very collaborative year for me. Typically, I stay to myself a lot. I make the content that I want to make. I do the things that I want to do. I don't really work well with others when it pertains to ideas. There are very few people who I'm like, okay, we align. But I have been changing that over the last couple of months. And next year, y'all are going to get an opportunity to see some of the amazing folks who I've been spitballing and throwing some stuff at the wall with. And I'm really, really excited about it. And so there's a lot more self-assurance, but there's a lot more teamwork making the dream work in 2026. And I think that if you are a queer creator of any kind, and especially if you Black, understand that the money is dwindling, the resources are dwindling, and the visibility is dwindling for our cisgender heterosexual counterparts. So that means for us that the drop in the bucket is this big now. And if we don't start working with one another, if we don't start pulling each other into these rooms, we are going to slowly but surely find ourselves back on the outskirts of them completely, waiting on the resurgence to happen. Because it will. There's going to be a resurgence. We will be invited back into the space. But some of us don't have enough reserves to last that long.
Yeah.
And next year is going to really be about the power of what that means. And walking in that power of understanding and knowing that the product that I am selling, that is myself, and the knowledge that I've gained over the years is valuable, even if and with these people maneuvering the way that they will surely maneuver next year.
Yeah, I love that you just said that. And it encourages like creators like myself who are Black and queer to really, I think right now in this moment, to be strategic about how we're planning for ourselves in 2026, right? It gives us an opportunity to say, you know what? Yeah, I need to take a step back and I need to revisit this, but I also need to think about, like you said, like who can I collaborate with? Who can I build with? Right? Who can I go together with? Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really important. And so I'm going to go ahead and close us out for the podcast. Before I do, I have one question. And this is a question that I ask like all of my guests. And it's, what are you unboxing right now and learning about yourself in this moment?
I am truly learning that patience is a virtue for real, for real. It's not just like a cliche saying that our parents gave us back in the day to day. It's a thing that rings true, I think, for so many life lessons that you'll learn. Being patient has allowed me the space to get way more opportunity than being hyper ambitious or being a bulldog have ever gotten me. And I'm really unboxing, unpacking, and rewriting what it means to be a person playing the game versus a person who is willing to understand that the game cannot always be played. Sometimes you have to exist and allow the game to stop back at your piece on the board. It's a circle. They're going to have to tip over this section again. And when they do, how ready can you be? Because you've been patient waiting for that moment versus how unprepared would you have been bulldogging your way into the room and forgetting that you didn't have a plan once you got there.
Okay. Let me tell you, because that plan is needed, okay?
Baby.
We got to have a strategy.
They'll let you in. They will let you in. Sometimes they will let you chew that drywall up to get into the room sometimes. And then when they sit down and give you them 5 minutes and you sitting there blinking, looking crazy because your only plan was to get in the room, now you squandered your spot. Sometimes being patient allows you to have life experience so that way when them people tip back around that board and they say, you know what? Let me see what Hope doing. You can say, because you've been patient, that you've learned X, Y, and Z, and here's how I can expand on what you all are bringing to the table in a way that I wasn't even able to do last year. Now, mind you, it's going to cost you a little bit more than I quoted you the first time, but it'll be worth it. I promise you. Yes. And that plan keeps you in the door.
That plan keeps you in the door. Yeah. I appreciate that because we need strategy. We need a plan. We can't go into things blind. Because when you go into things blind, you ain't gonna do nothing but dance to them people. And that is not the route you want to take, right? And so it's just so important for you to have a strategy, have a plan, maybe even, know somebody that's in the room that you can, hey, girl, this is what I'm trying to do.
Right.
Hey, get some thoughts out there, you know what I mean? So that you can have somebody advocating for you when you get into the room. So, I appreciate that. I love that. Also, that I just appreciate you being a part of the podcast as well. Thank you for being here, Hope. Any last words? Go ahead and shout yourself out with your social medias, where people can find you, continue connecting with you as well.
Absolutely. Please visit hopegiselle.com. It's a labor of love. It was created and built for me by a Black trans man named E.C. Pizarro. So outside of me just wanting y'all to go to the website, I want y'all to also support the work that he has put in. He's a tech person in a field where trans people are not often highlighted or seen. But also when you go there, you will be able to find all of my social media, upcoming events, documentary updates for those of you all who are still in tune with that. And there's also merch and a bunch of other really great things that you might not have known about me. So if you want to save yourself the trouble of having to do the Google search, just hopegiselle.com and everything and everywhere that you want to find me will be there.
Awesome. Yes, make sure you check out hopegiselle.com. And thank you all for being here, a part of the podcast, Love Unboxed. I just appreciate the listeners who are faithful, but also those who are new to the podcast. Thank you for joining. You can find us on all platforms where you listen to your podcast. You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok at Love Unboxed. That's UNBXD. And you can find me, I am Manny Made, on Instagram, and I am .Manny Made on TikTok. I thank you all for being here. Have a great rest of your day. Peace.